In Lesson 211, we're going to learn about the properties of quadrilaterals. If we look at the word quadrilateral, we see what's called a prefix. The prefix is quad and refers to four. So a quadrilateral would be a four-sided figure. There are many other words in our English language that have the prefix quad in it. You see some words such as quadruple, which means to find 4 times that amount. Quadrillion, which is a really big number, really large number. We have quadriceps, which are a 4-part muscle in your leg. And we have a quadriplegic, which is someone who is paralyzed from the neck down. So they have paralysis. So those are all words that also have quad in it. What we're going to do is, as always, you need your whiteboard marker and eraser, and your math journal to complete the page with the lesson. So go ahead, we're going to do a math warm-up. Please, number 1, 2, and 3. What we're looking at here is breaking apart the place values. So if we look at 9 tens, 9 in the tens place and 3 in the ones place, we have 93. 3, and this basically means times 100, or 3 in the hundreds place. 5 times 10, or 5 in the tens place. And 6 ones, or 6 in the ones place. So if I were to write that in standard form, right now it's in expanded form, it's broken down into individual place values. In standard form, it would be 356. Would you please do number 3? We have 607. We have nothing in the tens place. Now go ahead and erase your whiteboard. You're going to do the same thing again. Please, number 1 to 3. This time you know what's expected, so go ahead and write these expanded numbers into standard form. Pause the video and go ahead and write your answers. For number 1, we have 742,005. Nothing in the tens, nothing in the hundreds. So we occupy that place with a 0. Number 2, 903,740. Nothing in the 10,000s, nothing in the ones. And lastly, we have 4,050,063. Nothing in the 100,000s, nothing in the thousands, nothing in the hundreds. Go ahead and erase your whiteboard. We're going to work on factor pairs for a little while. So go ahead and write 24 on your whiteboard. And I am going to ask you to write all of the factor pairs of 24. I will give you clues by giving you the number of lines. You are going to fill in the factor pairs. Remember, if you start with 1 and go to 2, then 3, you know you have them all when you have the turnaround fact. Go ahead and use your multiplication chart if needed to write down all the factor pairs of 24. Pause the video. You should have 4 pairs for a total of 8 numbers. So for 24, you're writing this on your whiteboard. You should have already written this on your whiteboard. 1 times 24. I know 2 is a factor because it's an even number. If I go across my 3s, 3 times 8 is 24. 4 times 6 is 24. And nothing times 5. But then again, I would get 6 times 4. That's my turnaround fact. I know I have them all. Now let's go ahead and write down 30. Remember to always start with 1. You will have another 4 sets of factor pairs. Please write down all the factor pairs of 30. Pause the video, use your multiplication chart. I always start with 1 times itself. This is an even number. It ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So I know that 2 times 15, even though that's not one of my basic facts, I know 2 is a factor because it's an even number. 3 times 10. And then we have nothing times 4. And then we have 5 times 6. And then, of course, we would have our turnaround fact. As soon as we have our turnaround fact, we know we have found all of our factors. And lastly, please write down 45. So I will give you the amount of factor pairs. Go ahead and find. I will give you a clue on one of them because this is not a basic fact. So I'll give you that little clue. Go ahead and find all the factor pairs for 45. Remember to pause your video instead of just writing in what I write. So 1 times 45, we always know to start with 1 times itself. 3 times 15. 5 times 9. Nothing times 6. Nothing times 7. Nothing times 8. And then guess what? We get our turnaround fact. We know we found all of our facts. So notice that multiplication facts are crucial, and studying them by using your flashcards is very much encouraged. All right, inside of your math folder, you are going to find a sheet that looks like this. It is on white, and it lists quadrilaterals A through P. I need you to find that. So go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and find that sheet. What you're going to do is go ahead and cut along the dashed lines. So you're going to cut on the outside. You'll cut way better than Mrs. Har is tracing this. Then you'll cut along here so that each one of these quadrilaterals, 4-sided shapes, is separated. So go ahead and pause your video and cut apart the 16 shapes. Once you have those shapes cut apart, you're going to open to journal page 59. And this video will take us a little bit longer, so we may not have meetings, we'll see, but go ahead and take the time to do this. On the top of this page, it says properties of quadrilaterals. These are all 4-sided shapes. Number 1 says sort the quadrilaterals from Math Master page TA 18. That is the one that you just cut apart right here. If you look on page 59, they give you 3 groups, and they give you a hint. In group 1, you have to include shape A. In group 2, you have to include shape H. And in group 3, you have to include shape E. So take a look at shape A. It's called a parallelogram. It's a type of quadrilateral. What do you notice about shape A? Shape A looks something like this. Now take a look at shape H. Shape H is a trapezoid, and we've talked about trapezoids in previous lessons. I know it has 1 pair of parallel sides. The top and the bottom are parallel, like a pair of railroad tracks. All of the things in that group have to be like H. And in group 3, shape E looks like this. What other shapes would have something in common with E? So start with A. What other shapes would be similar to this? Start with that one. What I notice about A is that opposite sides, you can fill this in on journal page 59, that they have 2 pairs, right? In order to have a pair, you have to have like a top and a bottom and a left side and a right side. It is two pairs of parallel sides. So what other shapes other than A have two pairs of parallel sides? I'm going to look at my shapes. B does not, C does not, D does not, E does not, but guess what? F is a square. Opposite sides are parallel. The top and bottom are parallel. The left side and right side are parallel. G is not. H is not, but guess what? I, find I. I is also a square. Opposite sides are parallel. So is shape J. That is a rectangle. Opposite sides are parallel. K, shape K. Opposite sides are parallel. It doesn't have right angles, but the top and the bottom are equal distance apart and would never cross. L is a rectangle. Opposite sides are parallel. N is a parallelogram. Opposite sides are parallel. Doesn't have right angles. And O. So in group 1, they were all had two pairs of parallel sides. Rectangles, parallelograms, squares. The next one has H. H is a trapezoid. It has only one pair of parallel sides. The top is parallel to the bottom. If I continued the sides, they would eventually cross. Therefore, they are not parallel. So what other shapes look like that? Well, we've used A, F, I, J, K, L, N, and O. Those should be set aside. Now, let's take a look. B, nope. C, nope. D. D sort of looks like this. My drawing is not very good, sorry. But the left side and the right side are parallel. So D works. Moving on, H we already had written down from the book. I is used, J has already been used, K has been used, L has been used. M, the left side and the right side are parallel, but not the top and the bottom. So in group 2, I will write down that there is one pair of parallel sides for all of these quadrilaterals. So pick up your pencil on page 59 and write one pair of parallel sides. And lastly, in group 3, E is the one that they are telling us is part of this group. And if I were to draw shape E, remember it looks something like this. That one has no parallel sides. All of the sides eventually will touch. So E has no parallel sides. Shape B, shape C, shape G, and shape P. So what I'm going to do, so now that all of the shapes are back on one page, I just want to show you these are the sides that have, or shapes that have two pairs of parallel sides. A does, F does, this is parallel, and these are parallel. I, J, K, top and bottom are parallel. Right side and left side are parallel. L is, N is, and O is. So if you look at this, these two sides are parallel, these two sides are parallel. Top and the bottom are parallel, left side and the right side are parallel. In group 2, we had just one pair of parallel sides. So obviously H, the top and the bottom are parallel. D, and lastly group 3 had no pair of parallel sides. Oops. B, no pairs of parallel sides, and I'll show you why. If I were to extend these going straight, they eventually would cross each other, meaning that they are not parallel. So B does not have any pair of parallel sides. C does not. G does not. And letter P. So make sure you filled out page 59. Number 2, in which of your groups does quadrilateral X belong? It belongs in group 2. It has one pair of parallel sides. The top and the bottom, if you extended those, they would never cross, just like a pair of railroad tracks. And the reason I know is it has one pair of parallel sides. Okay, you don't need to do number 3 for today. All right, you do not need to keep those shapes once you've completed journal page 59. Go ahead and look into your Schoology folder and see what else you need to complete for today's math lesson.